we're making the policyholders of the state of Louisiana aware of the citizens' assessment and their opportunity to receive a rebate of this assessment back to them.
I'm joined today by Kent LaPlace with the Department of Revenue, and together we'll be explaining how to claim the rebates and talking about tax savings associated with retrofitting your home to make it more hurricane resistant. Each year there is an assessment put on every property insurance policy in the state, right under 4%. It goes to amortize the just over $1 billion bond issue that Citizens had to issue in February of '06. Actually, it was 2 weeks after I took office. Went to New York to promote the sale of those bonds, which we were very successful in doing, got very favorable interest rates and sold out the issue, the second largest bond issue in the history of the state, almost $1.2 billion. That's what it cost Citizens to finish paying Katrina claims. Would have had enough cash on hand and reinsurance in place to handle Rita, which came 3 weeks after Katrina, as you recall, and was our second largest, is still our second largest ever insured loss event in the state at $3.2 billion, which was 6 times larger than our pre-Katrina record of $500 million. But Katrina was $25.3 billion in insured losses to Louisiana policyholders alone. And Citizens, for its part, spent all of its reinsurance, all of its cash, plus $1.2 billion that a bond issue provided them in order to finish paying those claims. 12 more years of assessments to amortize those bonds will be necessary. Property owners, whether they're a Citizens policyholder or have insurance through another company, can submit their Citizens rebate claim for assessments paid in 2009 through 2012. And tax time is certainly a good time to claim the rebate. As of the end of last year, more than $255 million, or 65% of those funds, were not claimed. As long as you have a property insurance policy, you're entitled to claim the rebate because you did get assessed. To find out how much your assessment was, take a look at the deck page on your policy. It's spelled out right there. Sometimes it says Citizens Assessment, sometimes it says Louisiana Fair and Coastal Plan Assessment. The money is, the amount that you were assessed is right there also. The option to claim 2008 through 2006 through 2008 expired each year through December of last year. And the amount assessed in 2009 will prescribe as of December 31st of this year. Nearly $194 million has reverted back to the general fund unclaimed by policyholders who had the right to recoup that money, either as I do it, as a tax credit against your dollar for dollar, 100% tax credit against your Louisiana state income tax obligation, or as I do for my mother, who doesn't owe any state income tax on her income. Just fill out a simple one-page form that Mr. LaPlace will talk about in greater detail. Answer 4 questions: name, address, policy number, and the amount of your assessment. Attach a copy of your deck page, send it in to the Department of Revenue, and within a couple weeks you'll get a check or a debit card as in accordance with your preference in repayment to you, rebate to you of that assessment amount. Many ask us, why is this convoluted system necessary to get this money back to the policyholders who are being assessed? And some, with suspicious minds, think it's a conspiracy of the legislature or the governor or the state to get this $200 million that has reverted back to the general fund unclaimed. That's not the case. It's because of the sequences of events, beginning with the storm, Hurricane Katrina in August of 2005, the issuance of the bonds, the obligations spelled out in those bonds, purchased by investors all around the globe, all over the world. And the fact that the law requires us and the bonds require us to assess every policyholder in order to pay off those bonds. That's why the assessment has to be done in the first place. After the bonds were sold, the state experienced, from what I refer to as the mother of all stimulus, Hurricane Katrina, Hurricane Rita, and the rebuild thereafter. I mentioned the $25.2 billion paid to property owners in our state who had insurance in place when Katrina damaged their property, the $3.3 billion for Rita damage, the National Flood Insurance Program for insured property against flood through the NFIP paid Louisiana property owners another $15 billion for Rita and Katrina losses from those two storms. In addition to that, the federal government spent $15 billion improving our levee system in the metropolitan New Orleans area. Road Home distributed $8 to $10 billion in addition to that. Add it all together, and it is a, as my grandkids would say, humongous stimulus to our economy back in those times. And as a result, local governments and state government experienced unprecedented, unanticipated surpluses in their sales tax collections and in their income tax collections. And with those unanticipated surpluses, they decided to do something for those folks who were struggling with higher insurance costs in the aftermath of Rita and Katrina, and made this first-year tax credit available. And then because of folks like my mother who don't owe any tax and they wanted to extend that benefit to them as well, added the rebate aspect to the tax credit that originally was made available. So I suggest that everyone who is seeing this for the first time either access, as Mr. LaPlace will explain, the website for the Department of Revenue or ours, www.ldi.la.gov, or just call us. And every time we do a media event like this, the phones ring a lot. 1-800-259-5300. Now I'd like to bring to the microphone Mr. Kent LaPlace, the Department of Revenue's Director of Customer Service, who will explain more about how the process works with the Department of Revenue. Kent?
As the Commissioner stated, it's a fairly easy process to get this money back, and it is a direct credit on your tax return. Ideally, we would, if you have to file a state income tax return, we would recommend that you take this as a credit. It could increase your refund, it could lower the amount you owe, and it's one form that you file. And again, you can file it electronically, or you can file it, your income tax return electronically or by paper. Electronically goes much faster than paper. There are, the other methods we have a short INS, 540 INS form, as the Commissioner mentioned. You can either file that by paper, you can download a copy of that return from our website, and I believe the insurance department has a link to that form as well. And this past December, we instituted a new online version of this form for individuals. It is working fine. If you choose the online version, you have 3 choices to receive your refund. You may do direct deposit, which 57% of the people who have utilized this method have chosen. You can request a check, or you can request a My Refund card. If you file a paper return, new for this year, we will send a check only. A My Refund card is not an option on the paper filed. That's the way individuals can take care of this refund. If you're a business, you can file either using your business tax return, corporate income, franchise tax return, or you can file the 620 INS form for corporations. We do, at this time, do not have an electronic option for the corporations. All this information is available on our website at www.revenue.louisiana.gov. We also have a revenue information bulletin number 12-030, which gives additional information on claiming this citizen's rebate. If you have more than one property, we ask that you file one claim including all those properties. If you are filing the paper form, we ask that you provide us with the copies of the documentation. If you file electronically, we do not request the information up front, but we reserve the right to request this in the future should we have any questions about the amount of the assessment being claimed. When this process first started several years ago, there was a lot of confusion where a number of policy owners would think they could get a credit for the entire amount of their policy. This has caused a lot of reduction in refund claims, but over the years the policyholders have gotten a lot better and only claiming the amount of the citizen's citizen's assessment. So that's gotten a lot better. It speeds up the process, and it doesn't delay the refunds. So, you know, normally we like to tout that refunds filed electronically normally take around 10 business days. Paper takes a little longer because someone has to open the mail, process the paper, and do all the checks. Again, it is a simple, easy way to get your rebate. If you have forgotten to claim your rebate over the last several years, you can still claim the rebate on years 2009 forward. You will have to file a separate form for each year. You can't combine them all together. That will also kick it out, and we'll make a few adjustments that way. Or you can file them in the tax return if you haven't done it. So we encourage you to take advantage of this credit, and also go to our website, www.revenue.louisiana.gov, for any additional information, or call us. Our phone number and contact information and email information are on the website. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kent. There's one other item that I do want to make reference to as part of this tax tour that I'm in the midst of, and that is the availability of a tax deduction for folks who retrofit their homes, single-family or two-family home, owner-occupied homes, to meet the new statewide building code, also adopted by the legislature shortly after Rita and Katrina in the fall of 2005. If you do the upgrades that make your home more hurricane resistant, there is a state tax deduction available for your cost of doing that upgrade. And folks ask, what are those upgrades that qualify for, that make you eligible for the deduction, and also for an up to 20% discount in your homeowner's insurance premium once you have done the upgrade, have it inspected by a certified inspector, and show that certificate from the inspector to your agent to get your premium reduced going forward on a permanent basis, up to 20% per year. Those improvements include things like roof deck attachments, roof bracing, roof covering, roof-to-wall connections, secondary water barriers, and opening protections like storm windows. If you were built before the new building code, you need to upgrade and get certification that it was so constructed or retrofitted after the new building code. And if you new construction anywhere in the state since 2006 should be built to that standard, and you can have it inspected by a certified inspector and provide that certificate and access that up to 20% reduction in your annual cost of homeowners insurance. One thing I would point out on the chart next to me, know that 2012 is extraordinarily high with unclaimed monies, $89 million with 99% of it unclaimed. That's the norm because most folks, as Mr. LaPlace said, get theirs, like I get mine, as a credit on your state income tax return when you get around to filing your tax that's still not due until May 15th of this year. The norm going back since day one and up to 2011 is for just over 50% of the money to go unclaimed. And I might also point out that as you can see, the amount of assessment, the gross amount of dollars assessed, is decreasing. And that happens as a result of bonds being paid off, those that can be paid off, and the assessment amount dropping as those bonds expire or are retired. So last year's assessment, this year's assessment amount is actually 3 3/4%, down from 3.9% that was the assessment amount last year. We on the board of Citizens, I'm actually not on the board, but my chief of staff is the chair of that board. That board, by law, is obliged to make the calculation each year for the amount of the assessment necessary only to amortize those bonds. Not to pay them off early or to build up a reserve, only to amortize that year's debt obligation as calculated by those financial advisors and bond counsel that handle that bond issue for Citizens. We want to make folks aware of it because some $200 million has reverted to the general fund unclaimed by those who had a right to it. And generally speaking, since 2006, when the first assessment was done, just over 50% of that money reverts back to the general fund each year as it gets to be 4 years old. Just over 50% of it reverts back to the general fund unclaimed by those who have a right to it.
This is money that they can get back to them, and of course they can spend on other things and put it back into the economy, and it's money that they're entitled to. The legislature allowed them to have this as a rebate, so we want them to claim the monies that they're entitled to.
There is a state tax deduction available for retrofitting one's single-family or duplex owner-occupied home. And in addition to that, with retrofitting, that deduction is available for state income tax purposes, but there's also up to a 20% discount offered to property owners who do retrofit their property or build new property to the new statewide building code standards and get it inspected, get a certificate from that inspection, give it to your insurance agent, up to 20% reduction in the annual cost of the homeowner's insurance in place on that property. A really beneficial aspect of the new statewide building code the legislature passed in 2005. Our website, www.ldi.la.gov, has a link on the home page to the Citizens Rebate. Click on there. You can easily print out the one-page, 4-question name, address, policy number, amount of your assessment form that's necessary to submit to the Department of Revenue. Attach a copy of your deck page. Send it in, a separate form for each year, 09, 10, 11, and 12. And a check or a debit card or a direct deposit will be made on your behalf by the Department of Revenue. If that is not user-friendly, we have consumer representatives manning the phones at our 800 number, 1-800-259-5300, all day, every day, from 8 in the morning till 4:30 in the afternoon to help folks. And we get lots and lots of calls from the exposure we get through media outlets when we do these statewide tours. We do it at tax season, beginning now, and we do it again in December as another year is about to expire and folks lose the right to that next year's rebate.